G'day everyone, SJD here. Today's video is the second part of a two-part series on Megatron's alt mode. If you haven't seen the first video, a link is on the screen now. It's necessary viewing for this video, so be sure to check it out first. I also need to address two Megatron toys brought up in the comments of the first video before we start. Robosen and Kingdom Core Megatron. Robosen isn't a mainline toy, and Core isn't the correct scale. Neither of them do anything amazing in terms of design that must be mentioned, so I didn't. Saying that, both have much improved proportions over the Megatron toys I singled out in part 1, though they share a problem. The fusion cannon sticks out like a revealed head in vehicle mode. This is also an issue for Combiner Wars Megatron, something I neglected in that first video. But the fusion cannon, clearly visible in tank mode, breaks the illusion of the Earth tank in all of these toys. That said, let's get on to today's video. Megatron takes flight. While Megatron has primarily been a tank throughout the years, he's had various alt modes: car, jet, stealth bomber. Even the first two Beast Wars toys were originally intended as G1 Megatron, and if we were to extend the scope to other continuities, Megatron has been a spaceship, a dragster, a truck, a dragon, and an attack helicopter too. There is a recurring theme among Megatron's alt modes with them being able to take flight, something that makes a lot of sense when you consider that in the original cartoon, the Decepticons can fly, and the Decepticons as a whole were originally defined by the Seekers as a counterpoint to the Autobot cars. This is why the original aerial bots and Stunticons were novel at the time of their release. They had the opposing forces theme, and the cartoon utilised this for stories about both. This is also true for Jetfire, and how he was even marketed. The flight aspect of Megatron also gives us what is probably the most popular alt mode outside of G1, Animated's Attack Helicopter. Animated's Attack Helicopter Megatron is an interesting design choice. At the time, it was a unique take on Megatron. His flight modes prior had been jets or stealth bombers, and the helicopter was able to incorporate all of Megatron's iconography more naturally than any of the jets and even the tanks. It's normal for attack helicopters to have guns underneath the cockpit, and although the fusion cannon is very large, Megatron is of a made-up design, and you can hand-wave the cannon as a sci-fi weapon. It doesn't look too out of scale. The design is also extremely simple, to the point where you can actually see how it transforms just by looking at it. But outside of the very Energon-like wings in robot mode, it looks the part. Actually, it looks better than the part. By incorporating the red into the design as prominently as the original toy, it does a fantastic job at breaking up all the blacks and greys. It also has a lot of presence with the shoulder pauldrons, which also incorporate the red into the deco. That alone gives him so much more oomph than the modern Megatron toys have. They look naked by comparison. Animated Megatron is a phenomenal design for Megatron, and easily one of the best looking bodies the character has ever had. Unlike a potential jet mode, even a Cybertronian one, Animated Megatron doesn't tread on anyone else's toes by being too similar to them either. He's not being rendered as just another jet next to Starscream, and there really isn't anything like this design among the Decepticon ranks. Even when you get to characters like Vortex, it's such a different helicopter, it's not even comparable, and Megatron is far more visually striking. I could realistically leave this video here. Animated Megatron is an amazing design with a ton of character, taking the best parts of Super Megatron and transforming it into a base form. It also flows amazingly well into a hybrid of Energon and Titan's Return's Galvatron, as the shapes in both modes feel like a callback to Energon, while Titan's Return references the cockpit area. Then that design in turn flows well into Super Megatron, giving the character a 3-toy story arc from the get-go. While I have some concerns about how an attack helicopter compares to an F-15 style jet in cool factor, they are roughly the same size in real life, Animated Megatron's twin propeller attack helicopter is a perfectly appropriate alt mode for Megatron to adopt, and keeps the iconography of the robot mode. However, as you can see from the runtime, I have some more to talk about. I want to return to the tank. The fusion cannon problem. While you can logically create that through line from Megatron to Galvatron and finally Super Megatron with the animated design, something has to be said for the tank still being in the spirit of the original toy. The logical upgrade from a gun is a cannon or a howitzer, and finally a tank. It has that evolutionary through line. It keeps the spirit of the P-38 Walther while being much more appropriate for both mass retail and the character's station. However, Generations doesn't quite get it. At the end of the first video, I mentioned that the fusion cannon was the scope on the Generation 1 toy, not the gun barrel, and that's a huge part of why modern Megatron tanks miss the mark. The design has to either use the tank barrel instead of the fusion cannon, making it less impactful in robot mode, or break the illusion that is an Earth tank by incorporating the fusion cannon into the tank design, breaking up the turret. Megatron's iconic weapon is also his largest problem. So let's go back to that Generation 1 Megatron. Where does the gun barrel actually end up in robot mode? There are two answers. The cartoon, a design inspired by the prototype of MC-12, places the barrel behind the right shoulder. While the toy can do this, you have to force it through. The toy's natural placement, however, is on the hip. Both of these placements are notable as they've both been referenced over the years with tank Megatrons, just older ones. G2's Megatrons, both the original and Hero, place the barrel on the right shoulder, moving it so it can be used as a weapon instead of on the back as a decoration. This frees up the arms completely, allowing him to wield other weapons, such as his sword or flail. It also doesn't make any real compromises. Both G2 Megatrons are compromised by their action features involving their cannons, but looking past that, and what they could be if the action feature was better integrated or dropped, the design itself works out perfectly well. As seen with the Knights 2 G2 Megatron, it also can be designed in such a way to keep the barrel imposing without being fantastical, something the comics regularly forgot. The other Megatron is one that was recently returned to, Armada Megatron. In a deliberate callback to the original toy, Armada Megatron has the barrel loop around his waist to be mounted on his hip, and unlike G1 Megatron, he actually fires it from that position. Well, actually this is his battle position, as the normal placement of the barrel is out to the side. He also has a power links formation where the entire turret comes around the front, giving him more firepower, but that's beside the point. Armada Megatron returns to that original toy, weaponizes it, and is quite successful as a finished design. The same concept could very easily be worked into another design to the same results. Both G2 and Armada Megatron ultimately show that you can be faithful to the original Megatron design while not being beholden to it. Armada more so since it was a deliberate design choice to invoke that original toy. Aaron Archer has stated this was his intent, but homaging G1 rather than trying to be G1 produces a more cohesive design overall. However, everything has a price, and a more cohesive design has cost Megatron part of his silhouette. His arm now lacks the shape of his signature weapon. While both G2 and Armada Megatron have their own silhouettes, it's not the same. But maybe that's not a problem if you're trying to be a very realistic tank. It just redefines the character. This also serves as a counterpoint to animated Megatron that puts a huge amount of importance on taking the G1 robot mode, embellishing it, then finding a vehicle mode that can incorporate it all, in turn losing the spirit of the alt mode. There is also, of course, the option to just throw your hands up in the air and make Megatron a sci-fi tank. Maybe Siege Megatron, for as underwhelming as that toy is, was the right decision all along. The only thing it doesn't do is fit in with the hyper-realistic 1984 cast. But that's not such a problem from 1985 onwards, is it? I want to take the time to thank everyone that watched the first video and this one. The views the first video got, along with the new subs, seeing I'm doing something people are actually enjoying, it meant a lot to me. I do have some other Megatron stuff to talk about, but it's probably best served for another place. If you want to keep up with my upcoming Transformers content, be sure to like and subscribe. Till next time, thanks for watching.